This week, Michael and I will have a discussion on leadership, innovation, and startup success, and maybe some startup failure too. A bunch of articles. We're going to talk about successful entrepreneurs battling from idea to launch, why the future will be won by the scientist, and in the second segment, we'll talk about startup security news. We've got a lot of updates. Excuse me, SailPoint, WatchGuard, Forescout, Synopsys, and more on this episode of Startup Security Weekly. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show about security startups, how to secure your startup, and advice for security startups. It's Startup Security Weekly.
I need it from the top.
Brought to you by. Make sure your team is prepared to fight off the latest cybersecurity threat. IT Pro TV is the resource to keep you and your IT team skills up to date. You can stream IT Pro TV's courses live and on demand worldwide, so there's no need to send staff to off-site training. Their team solution provides access to a supervisor portal for full control over your team's training schedule and group analytics. Go to itpro.tv/startup security and use the code SS30 to try it free for 7 days and receive 30% off your monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. To learn more about IT Pro TV's team solution, sign up for a free demo of their supervisor portal. Do you have a website, an external presence, employees, an office? Any of these things can be compromised and attacked. How are you defending these assets? Have you penetration tested these public assets? Start 2017 by taking a proactive approach to securing your vulnerable areas. Black Hills Information Security has been helping companies find their weaknesses since 2008. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com and see how they can help you sleep better at night. Are you looking for a career where you can make a real difference? Accenture Security is looking for passionate, creative minds to tackle some of the biggest security threats facing us today. Innovative thinkers who want to outmaneuver cybercriminals. They're hiring specialists across the spectrum, from security strategy to cyber defense, digital identity, and application security, helping to deliver holistic solutions. If you want to use next-generation technologies and global resources to change the future of security, visit accenture.com/security careers. Welcome, everyone, to Startup Security Weekly. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, for November 3rd, 2017. This is episode 61, and I would like to introduce on the lines via Skype the Sand Hobo himself, Mr. Michael Santarcangelo. Michael, how are you today?
I am fantastic. I love the ring of that. That's so much better. Beach bum is probably more accurate, but Sand Hobo just sounds better. Hobo. I like it, and I'm good. I'm excited.
You love it, and you want some more of it. No? Okay, maybe not.
Too well. No, I'm with you. You got it. You got me all figured out. I can't even hide it anymore.
Michael, are you tired of doing file analysis by hand?
Yeah. That's kind of obvious, right?
Yeah, I mean, we all are. You should register for our webcast coming up with Stealth Bits. Dr. Doug White will talk about file system forensics, which is a unique opportunity. Doug's been doing it since the beginning of time on those 9-inch floppies that we talked about on a Paul Security Weekly show. And Jonathan Sander, who you know very well, will also be on that webcast talking about systems analysis and automation. You should definitely tune in and check out just to be there to hear. I don't really need to say anything more other than Dr. Doug White and Jonathan Sander. Like, I'm just going to sit back and watch the fireworks spectacular for that webcast, dude.
I agree. I'm on the website right now signing up.
There you go. securityweekly.com/stealth bits. Awesome. All right. Well, let's jump right into it, Michael. You and I haven't talked in a while. Just a shame. I was
It is.
What happened? What was last week? I don't remember what. I know it's all a blur. I
had a workshop. I had a workshop last week.
You had a workshop, and then
we tried to find a guest host, and I guess I'm irreplaceable or something. I don't.
No, we were working on the studio last week, so we decided to. We actually canceled a bunch of shows because we needed to rip apart the studio. There was some pretty major construction going on in here. which will be more next week too. But we got it to a point where we can actually record shows now, which is good, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
And then
it is. That's exciting stuff.
It is. So what's going on in the world of leadership, innovation, and startup success, Michael?
All right, we're gonna cover the gamut, and as usual, as we go through some of these pieces, I want to point out a couple things for people to think about each of these different situations. I've been out. We'll talk about this at the end of the program, but the workshops, Paul, are working, right? That sounds inelegant to say it that way. But when we start looking at solving problems and bringing stuff together, I'm really encouraged with the teams and the leaders that I've been working with, because a lot of the stuff that we talk about for startups, they need to know too. They need to look at it. They need to consider stuff the same way. And part of the reason for that is because when you're operating in a startup like mode, so you're starting up a new team, you've got to justify pretty much everything. You've got to justify your hires. You've got to make sure people are focusing on the right stuff. So there's this cool concept called contribution margin. It's a Harvard Business Review article, and it's a good. I mean, I go to their stuff from time to time. It's one of the subscriptions that I have, so I thoroughly enjoy it. But here's the basic idea. If you ask somebody, hey, how are you doing? What's your profitability? People will, a lot of times, they'll look at it. In fact, one of the things we'll talk about in our updates today is one of the companies isn't even yet profitable. They had their IPO. They've done very well, and they're really hoping that maybe next year is the year that they become profitable. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll take a look at profit margin, and that basically says, okay, here's my total amount of sales, here's my total amount of cost, here's the money that's left over. Look at us, didn't we do a good job? And by the way, if you're just trying to check the health of the company, not a bad way to look at it. When you look at contribution margin, what you're looking at now is how much does each of the products or services that we offer contribute to that piece, right? Hence, it's a contribution. Now, as she points out in this article, you can do it a couple different ways, but basically what it does is you take the contribution margin, and that's the revenue that you create from that product or that service, that feature, whatever, and then less whatever the variable costs are. Now, I want to point something out relative to that. When we talk a lot, and you'll hear me just say it, unit economics, this is what I'm talking about. So when we talk about getting your unit economics right, figuring out your delivery model, and again, I'm going to point out this matters even if you're not a startup today. Because if you're offering services, one of the things that we're seeing more and more in the security space is the realization that security teams have to influence without direct authority. I've even talked to a couple teams in the Fortune 500.
I like that. Influence without direct authority. I like that a lot.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be the lead on my homepage because it's what keeps coming up in all of these teams. And Paul, when we sit down, we did a great exercise in the workshop on Friday. And we said, okay, well, hold on, though. We have a policy, so we should have authority, right? We ran through it. Here's the bottom line. Yeah, no, not really. And I've talked to huge financial companies where security is actually really important. And you know what? Their big challenge, we still need to influence without authority. Like we need to take a different way of being able to do it. If you want to go influence without authority, that means you're going to be thinking about the services that you're offering to the teams around the organization, which then means you've got a bunch of internal consumers. You can't do things that drive your team into the ground. So when we talk about the unit economics, what we're talking about is how much does it take you, how much does it cost to make something, and how much does it cost to deliver something? A lot of times we're quick to discount those costs. So, you asked me about, doing manual file analysis. It's mind-numbing. I can't do that. I can't add enough bodies to it. So of course we should go check out what Jonathan and Dr. Doug are going to show us. But as you go through this, then your contribution margin says, here's how much money I made from it, and here's what the variable costs were that contributed to it, and that's it. So you can start it pretty easy because you can take a look at a fixed cost, right? Those are the things that, like, I already had the computer and I paid for the internet and I've got all these overhead costs, and then there's the variable costs. To deliver that service, does it take any time from somebody? Do you have to walk them through a setup? Is there an on-ramp? And then as you start taking a look of those things, it starts to help you understand what the contribution margin is. Now, why does that matter? Well, what that does now is it helps me figure out things like my fixed versus my variable costs. And so here, I'll give you an example. And this is why I think this matters, not just if you're a startup. So this is a quote. It's likely that a division leader at GE is managing a portfolio of 70-plus products and has to constantly recalculate where to allocate resources. as a division head, if I have to cut, I'm going to cut products that have the lowest contribution margin so I can focus resources on growing the business and increasing profit. I can hear it right now. But Michael, we're in security. We're not about profit. Yeah, I know. I get it. And it's like when a nonprofit says, we're a nonprofit. Yes, you still have to make money to put the lights on. If you're in security today, you still got to solve the problems. You've got to increase value. You've got to show people that it matters. So these are the things that matter. That's
what I really like is I was doing a webcast yesterday with Signal Sciences, and Zane was talking. I don't know if it was on air or off air, but it was talking about the way that you actually deploy. I think it was off air. It was talking about deployment for their solution, and I was like, well, what if I were to like pretend I'm a customer, right? I want to put it inside my application so I can do web application security monitoring, or really web application monitoring via Signal Sciences. And we got through the technical details, and I was like, oh, so it literally takes me 4 minutes, right? Because that's really how long that would take me. I know exactly how long that would take me. It would like 4 minutes. He's like, yeah. Pretty much. He's like, we don't even tell people like minutes anymore because they don't believe us until they do it. And they're like, wow, that took minutes. I'm like, no, dude, what you described would literally take me minutes. So the barrier to entry is extremely low for customers. And I think that's speaking to your contribution margin, right? Is that's
Absolutely.
Part of the cost.
Yeah, so
if I have to spend hours on the phone with Zane or whoever the vendor is, and go through a difficult process, that has to be factored into a cost. I like it.
That's right. And it gets factored on both sides. So if you're the vendor, you've got to say, okay, how much time do I need to walk somebody through this? So, where Signal Sciences has figured it out, and they said, look, you don't need us. We've got the wizard or whatever figured out. You can be up and running literally in minutes. That's a huge point for them. And when we get to value proposition and we really start not only looking at value, but more specifically here, impact, that's a huge multiplier in the positive column. So that's awesome. And yeah, you got to look at it, because as a vendor, if that means, right, the new phrase is customer success people. If you have to ramp up your customer success team because they've got to handhold and walk everybody through it, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Right. All it is a thing. It just means you need to pay attention to it, be aware of it.
Right.
Yeah. But if you can figure out how you can reduce those costs, then you get a higher contribution margin. And that's a good thing. So a lot of times what I'll look at, and I want to be careful now because this concept of a scorecard pops up in security a lot more, and we talked about security scorecard with their latest funding round and such. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I said to a lot of security leaders is, do you have a scorecard? Like, how many products? I mean, Paul, you and I have talked to a number of people. They say on average, the security leader today is managing between 50 and 70 different relationships. We've talked about that in the SOC, the average analyst is working with 37 different panels or screens in order just to do an assessment. Okay, so I think conservatively, we probably got 40 to 50 different products in our environment. Which ones are getting you the best lift for the services you're trying to offer, and which ones are just not cutting it? And when you look at me and go, I don't know, right, guys, this is, I don't mean to be too blunt, but if you then say to me, the business doesn't take us seriously, the executives aren't really paying attention, nobody's listening. Okay, well, how many things are you managing? What are your better performers and why? What are the ones you might cut and why? And what do you need to do next and why? You can't answer any of those questions? All right, well, then I don't mean to be a jerk, but I can tell you why you're not getting stuff figured out.
I want to point out an area in a category within information security solutions that I think can really help with this, Michael. And I know we have a little extra time today because we don't have a guest, so I want to get your take on it. There are companies like Grim and SafeBreach and a couple of others. And really what I'm finding is after working with Grim and their awesome team over there, is I'm starting to understand the market better in that they make security solutions that evaluate your existing security solutions. And sometimes they'll present themselves as like, we're an automated pen test, or we're automated malware distribution. I believe where their real value is, I've got 37 products in my environment. I need to evaluate the effectiveness of them. Sure, penetration testing, great exercise. Even if you have do it more often, or if you have your own internal pen test team, they can only get so far. But if you've got an automated little monkey that's running around your environment, it's kind of how I think of it, and evaluating the effectiveness of you, and giving you a good, if the reporting is good, then it can give me a scorecard, as you're talking about, and say, here are the deficiencies in in your various systems. When your manager in your scenario comes to you, Michael, and says, like, how are we doing? Like, how are we doing defending against evil, bad people is one thing, but how what is the effectiveness of our security solutions are two different questions. And I like the category that allows organizations to evaluate what they have.
Yep. I think that people that are able to do that, I think they have a tough story to tell, because a lot of folks are going to sit there and say, well, but why do I need to do that? Right? A lot of what we do in security today is dogmatic. Well, I bought this. Why? Because we always have it. Okay, so you need to have it. Yeah, Michael, it's a firewall. We totally need to have it. Okay, right. Well, what would happen if you didn't have it? Bad things would happen. Okay, but everything else you have has a firewall built into it. Do you really need it? By the way, folks, I'm not advocating go rip out all the firewalls. All I'm saying is, have you asked the question? Like, what if, right? And this is where we look at things like zero-based budgeting and everything else. I think that the way that security has spiraled, and it's been good for us. I mean, I've built a career on it. Paul, you and I have been doing this long enough. In the mid-'90s, late '90s, if you got into security, you literally had somebody sit you down and counsel you about the career mistake you're about to make, and how you needed to go into networking or desktop support or whatever else, because that's where the real opportunities were. Okay, back then, if you got into security, you either hit your head a lot as a kid, or there was something about us that just, we saw the world a little different, and that's exciting, and so that's created all these really cool opportunities. A lot of what we did, it was tough to explain, it was hard to make sense, but we knew that if we did it, it worked really well. There's a lot of medicine that works that way. Can't tell you exactly why it works, but I can tell you that it works. Security, to a certain extent, has functioned that way, but it doesn't have to. And we're getting to a place now where if you can tell me which of these things are contributing to our success as a team versus the things that aren't, that's really good. Now, some of you are probably saying, so can I do this for my people? I'm going to answer that really carefully. Yes, no. Yeah, I mean, of course you can. Should you? It's called a performance review. I'd be a little bit more careful with that. But let's talk about sales for a second. I really liked this piece of advice, and I kind of terrified it. This is why I put it in there. How do you feel about like door-to-door selling? Or how about if I give you a job as a telemarketer? You got to make outbound calls all day. How's that feel? Terrifying, right?
In reading this article, I would adopt the approach that he recommends in the article, and I think it's towards the end where he talks about when there's a sales crunch. So if you give me a telemarketing job or sales job and I got to meet a quota, that what a lot of people do in crunch time where I got to meet my numbers is they get hyper-focused on the hot leads and try and close those deals. Yep. And what he's recommending this article is, no, just talk to more people. Talk to more people. And get if your sales messaging is good, your product is good, talking to more people is going to work for you, right? And I feel like, the organizations that struggle maybe don't have a good sales process, good messaging, or maybe not a good product. And when you talk to more people, I feel like you can find that person that's going to be a much quicker sales cycle because you're solving their immediate problem, where someone else, yeah, you may be further along down the path, but, man, you got a longer way to go to convince them. And that might be worth it in the long run, but if you're looking to meet numbers, increase sales, talk to more people. And I mean, I can see we do that a lot here at Security Weekly. I mean, I try and talk to as many vendors as I can. And, we have this sales criteria that, like, you can't be a vendor that all of my friends in the security community have had bad experiences with, or even a large majority, right? Like, you have to have products that actually solve people's problems, as I've heard some people, phrase it. And so we, just by that nature, talk to as many people as we can. And it turns out that's a pretty good sales strategy as well. So I kind of fell into that by accident, Michael. But I think it's sound.
I've seen the difference myself. Here's something that really struck me when I took a look at this. And I've been thinking about it I've got 4 kids, and we always joke we got 2 sets, the bigs and the littles. And it's been kind of an interesting week for us because we've got one in high school, and so we were talking about already like graduation plans and what do the next couple of years look like. And then we have one in kindergarten and one not yet in school, and then one in middle school. So we got 3 kids, 3 different schools. And it's just kind of interesting, like when you look at those stages of life. Here's the thing then that kind of matters. A lot of people then say, well, I should go get a job. And I've come to realize that I'm going to encourage my children to go learn how to sell and go learn how to sell hard stuff. So what this says is, look, guy that they're talking about, he sold books, went door to door selling books. It's kind of like going door to door and selling Kirby vacuums, or going door to door and selling any number of other types of things. Now, I don't necessarily mean that I want my kids to, get involved in one of these multi-level marketing things. I have no problems with them, and it's a good side hustle. But what I'm taking a look at is, can you go establish rapport with somebody? Can you find somebody? Can you interrupt them? And can you connect with them? Can you impart value to them? I mean, if you think about a lot of what we do in Straight Talk, and if, in fact, I'm going to go back a step further. Let's go take a look at a lot of the challenges that we face in security today, because I got to tell you, and my excitement's going to keep coming through, and I will not apologize for it. I've spent 10 or so years trying to figure out my place in security. And I've bounced around to a bunch of different stuff. In the last 3 or 4 years, it was looking like Straight Talk. And I've been talking about this workshop I've been putting together for a while. Paul, the dots are coming together, and it's so exciting. But now I'm getting to work with teams that are at this point. You know what they want? They want to go figure out how to connect with people, because that's what it's going to take to be successful. They want to figure out how to collaborate better so that they're getting a complete picture. They're understanding what's up. They're making better decisions faster. And, of course, when you start doing those things, you can get your influence without direct authority and all that type of stuff that you're looking at. Well, you know what you have to do when you're doing door-to-door sales and you're doing things that are a little bit more complex? You got to meet people where they're at. You got to learn how to build a connection with them quickly. You've got to bring them into the sale and collaborate with them about their current situation and how you can elevate their situation into their better tomorrow. And are you going to close most of the deals? No, you're going to have a lot of doors slammed in your face and a lot of people telling you no. But what I've learned in life is that if you can communicate and you can meet people and you can believe in the value that you bring them so much that you're willing to knock on the door and say, hi, do you have a minute? Which, by the way, is probably not going to keep the door open. So you got to come up with a better way. I mean, think about all those lessons. And is it terrifying? I think it's terrifying. And I think that's why it's awesome. And then what he learned in this is what you were just talking about, which is there's a quality of the prospect. There's the quality of the presentation that you give and the way that you think about it. And there's the quality of the effort. And I think you're right. A lot of people, they get panicked at the end. And by the way, I think some of that too is on the companies, because we put all that pressure. I got to make the quarterly numbers. I got to show it. I'm always fascinated when I talk to a company that wants to extol me. We've had 16 complete quarters of growth, blah, blah. Yeah. And as you said, are you solving problems? Do people like you? Are you contributing value? Like, good for you for growth. I don't know what that means. I mean, I do. I know I'm being a little bit of a jerk about it. But so anyway, I think this is useful. And he's right. When you're in a slump, go see more people. Go talk to more people and see where your messaging resonates. And then listen. I would say, too, when you're talking, listen. Listen to what they're really telling you and start to draw those connections, and you'll find a couple things happen. You'll get your good short-term sales, but you'll also build out longer-term stuff. So for me, it's always about the quality touches. And as you've pointed out, when I go in and I work with startups and I look at their sales team or I look at their messaging, typically when they're struggling, it's really unfocused. And this is something you and I have talked about, but I'll point it out here. When you're that small team, by the way, this will work too if you're a security team. There's a handful of you, 4 or 5, maybe up to 10 people. You're going to move pretty fast, because that's a small enough group you can get together on a regular basis. You're going to go through a bunch of those battles together. You're going to learn the knowledge that you share is very tribal. It's easy to do. Once you start growing, everybody's going to put their own stamp on it. They're going to miss out on a lot of that nuance. If you're in a vendor, that's when the sales cycle goes from 3 months to 6 months to 12 months or longer. What's happening? They don't know what you're talking about. You didn't build up that relationship. You're not focusing on the right quality of the prospect. You're not being as discerning as you used to be. And the messaging is just completely confusing. And we seem to have this misguided belief that, well, it's confusing, but they'll figure it out. No, they won't. They're busy. This is why we always talk about, when you answer for me what problem are you trying to solve, you need to isolate that and you've got to elevate that. That's the only way my brain is going to lock onto that. But if you make me work too hard, my evaluation will just be, yeah, that's not my problem. Move on. Could be totally my problem. You could be the solution I have been begging for. But I'm not necessarily going to go out of my way to look for it. So I like this. I like this idea of really learning the hustle. And I think there's a lot of folks, and I've seen and talked to a bunch of people, Paul, over the last year or two, that thought selling was easy till they had to do it themselves, and like really had to do it because that's how they put food on the table. And suddenly you figure out, oh, this isn't what it seemed like. There's more to this. And that's, by the way, and somebody asked the other day, will I put together a list of the books that I keep talking about on the show with a quick summary of each? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say yes, but things are a little hectic still for a couple more weeks. So yes, I will put that, Paul. We'll make it available here.
Yeah.
I'll stick it up on my website as well. And then one of the other things I'm going to start doing, and I'm not sure where I'm going to offer it or how I'm going to do it, but it occurred to me that some of them I can even connect to things we talk about on Startup, and some things in the enterprise, and some things that I can do relative to Straight Talk. So I like these books because I like these books. So
I like this next article too, and I think it segues from the previous article very, very nicely. It's like stuff, if you read that first article, then read this one, and they give you some tips. The 3 questions that they ask in here, Michael, I love. It's just they're awesome.
Well, and you obviously know that I love asking questions. Yeah, this is another one. So again, it's another one I pulled out of the Harvard Business Review, and I think this is in this issue. I actually didn't read this issue yet, but so it's a short guide to strategy for entrepreneurs. Yes, it's also a great guide to strategy if you're running a security team today. And you're right. Here's the 3 questions that they ask, and they're looking at value creation, value delivery, and value capture. When I do the workshop, one of the things we talk about, Paul, is the imperative of value, or the value imperative. It all starts with value. Straight Talk starts with value. Everything starts with value. If you're not adding value, if you're not receiving value, stop doing it. And again, somebody right there is going, Michael, it's regulatory. I have to do it. No, every regulation has the ability to not do the regulation. You might pay a penalty for it. You might be going out of business if you don't comply with it. Okay, well then that doesn't mean you had to do it and there was no value in it. The value in complying with it is you remain a going concern. All right, here's their 3 questions. And it's really kind of funny because they added a bunch of more in here. All right, so who are you serving? Fine. By the way, that is important. It doesn't always have to be the first question you ask. I'll tell you why in a second. What are you offering? How are you able to deliver it? And why won't it be copied? All right, let me go with 2 quick parts here. I think the first thing to do is figure out what you're offering and how you're able to deliver it. A lot of times I've worked with folks in an ideal setting. Yes, I solve this problem for this group of people. I can tell you with my own experience, Paul, it started out looking at, do I have a play with startups? Yep. Turns out, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this, higher education security teams and the workshops, they're fantastic. I love their approaches. They've got a real need to influence without authority. I'm thoroughly enjoying that. And if you had asked me 6 months ago if that would be a potential, in fact, maybe even my best client, my ideal client type, I wouldn't have thought about it. But then also enterprises, large enterprise. I've always been a Fortune 500 guy, and those folks have said, hey, you know what? We need some of that. So here's the thing. If you figure out what you're offering first, and you kind of have a notional idea, right? I mean, I knew it was security leaders. I knew it was security leaders with teams of a certain size trying to accomplish certain outcomes. So how are you able to deliver? That took me a couple iterations as well, but I've got that kind of figured out. But the why won't it be copied? Here's what I kind of look at too. What if it is? Like, my point on this is, don't lose too much sleep over that. Now, granted, if you're doing a product or you're offering some sort of an app and you're worried about somebody in the app store knocking it off or whatever else, probably a more valid question. But if you're just talking about your hustle because you're consulting or because you're creating training on something or because you're writing a book, yeah, do it. Just do it. Don't lose too much sleep over why it won't be copied. I've always been a fan of Marshall Goldsmith. People always ask me who I like for leadership. Marshall Goldsmith. Love his stuff. Thoroughly, absolutely love his stuff. And one of his practices is he just gives it away. Now, mind you, it's rumored that his fees to coach Fortune 500 like CEOs are substantial and only gets paid, as I understand it. Now, I have not yet met the man, but as I understand it, he only gets paid, Paul, if he gets you the results that you talked about as evaluated by like your board or the other executive team. So basically, now, if you wanted to throw, mid 6 figures on the table for me and say, hey, if I get these results at the end of the year, I'll pay you. Okay, cool. Right. And he's been doing it for a long time. He's really successful. But if you ever watch any of his speeches, he says, go to my website. Here's a library. Here's this, this, and this. If you want this, send me an email. I'll send it back to you. Now, obviously, it's not him sending it to you, I don't think. He's very generous with this stuff. And somebody asked him one time, aren't you afraid somebody's going to take your stuff? And he said, what, and become better leaders? Right. Yeah, I'm good with that. And you know what? People still buy their books. We had the pleasure of interviewing Cory Doctorow back on Security Weekly. And what did he learn when he gave away his book absolutely for free? He still got a publishing deal, still got an advance. People still buy the book. Right. Should you worry about somebody else capturing some of your value? Yes. but don't lose sleep over it. So my take, I'm curious yours. Focus on what you're offering. Focus on how you're going to deliver it. Make sure you've got an audience that needs it. And then if you're doing something that where someone stealing it would take the rug out from underneath you, yes, focus on it. If not, move on. Go create value. Do good things for good people, and build a business.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I think competitive advantage is kind of interesting because there's two aspects to it. When I look at my businesses, I try and solve the problem differently. I'm trying to explain it without using specific examples. In other words, when we talk about advertising for companies, I try and explain why they should advertise on our network versus doing some other marketing activities. Now, that's not direct competition with us, right? But it's really a value pitch, so you're going to get a lot of value out of this. And oh, by the way, in your other activities, this is where you turn competitive advantage on its head. Oh, by the way, the other stuff that you're doing, we're going to enhance that as well. You're going to get a better return. And security solutions should do the same thing. Like, we're going to get the solution. We're going to solve the problem better. We're going to help you overcome the shortcomings with maybe some of the other of the 36 solutions that you have. And, oh, by the way, we're going to strengthen your return on investment for your other security investments to put it in a security context. And I think once you have that, that's one aspect. Now, then the other aspect of competition are there people that do exactly what you do, and you just have to stick to your value points and your point of view on the problem, and move forward. Like Michael said, don't get too caught up with competitive analysis.
Well, and Paul, you already gave part of this answer before too. You're not going to be a fit for everybody. Everybody's not going to be a fit for you. Right. So if somebody else does something similar, it doesn't mean that they're naturally a competitor. It doesn't mean that you can't be friendly with them. It doesn't mean any number of things. It just means, okay, cool. And I've always been impressed by the folks, right? Like, talent recognizes talent. Like, somebody's like, or performers recognize performers. It's like, cool, I do it different, but I see what you did there. I respect that. I think that's kind of awesome. And I think we're better for that as an industry. I think we're better for that in the community. Now, a lot of folks are trying to put together different ideas. And so how do you battle from your idea to your launch and to you survive? We think it's really, inventing is easy. I think if you watch this show, you probably know it's not. Did you ever watch it? You and I always trade off shows, and I have not yet watched *Halt and Catch Fire*, but there was one for a while on CNBC called like $1 Million Inventor. And it was taking people with their ideas from their inventions. They'd get partnered up with a coach, and then they would take them through like a redesign phase and a prototyping phase, and they would sit them down and pitch them with investors. I loved it. As you can imagine, I talked out loud to the TV quite a bit while watching it, but I liked it. And so the thing that's interesting is when you look at it, is people go, oh, well, I've got the idea. Once I've got it, I sketched it out. I mean, it's good, right? I mean, people are going to jump on it. And the short answer is no. So what happened here, it's a neat story of a person with special forces, a background in securing different things. That's all cool. Here's what really matters, though. So 4 lessons. Hold off on your licensing deals. By the way, so I'm going to point this one out because this one I really liked a lot. Basically what he said was, wait till your product's established. Wait till you're making money on it. Wait till you can go show people how it's valuable. And then your licensing deals get better. Yes, same thing with partnerships, same thing with everything else. If you go focus on really solving the problem and you've got your stuff together, you know what your deals are going to be, you know how everything's going to work out, and you've got that track record, then that's the difference. I mean, some of the authors that they get, they're on their 7th or 8th bestseller, they get bigger advances, they get bigger royalties, they get bigger everything. Why? Because they're proven. Go prove. Give somebody that proof. Take some of that risk away. You're going to get a better licensing deal, and you're going to get more opportunities in those deals. I like that. The other thing that I thought mattered here too, I mean, pacing yourself is always important, whether you're drinking booze or you're working on anything. But and he talks about choosing your partners wisely, but it's also about losing focus. And I think a lot of it comes back to that. Have your focus, validate it from time to time, check it. Don't be afraid to evolve it. We use that word pivot too much. Don't be afraid to evolve it as you're tinkering and figure out that product market fit, and stay on it. It's going to take a little bit of time, but if you can get it figured out by listening to the right people, I think you do better off. But the point is, you've got an idea? Awesome. All right, now your journey's about to begin. Strap in.
In holding off on licensing, I always think of Kevin on Shark Tank because he always jumps right in with the the licensing deal.
That's how he made his money, by the way. He's impressive. Yeah. I know he loves playing the bad guy, but I thoroughly enjoy him. And on the new season, as Sir Richard Branson and a few others, and I've watched a couple of them, and I enjoy it. When they go for the marathons, it's too long. I don't need the drama. I just want to see the business, see how it works.
Yeah, it did get a little drama-like. But I agree with you with Kevin. I think he just plays the bad guy just for the role on TV. I actually think they did like a behind the scenes with Kevin kind of thing and told a little more of a story, and I actually think he's a really nice guy. So is my assessment.
Really nice. He's really intelligent. I'd work with him in a heartbeat. I think Mark Cuban's his energy is fantastic. These are people I'd love to meet and work with. All right, scientist CEO. So here's the basic idea. I'm kind of curious your take on this. What they're looking at is they think that the challenges in a lot of places, and startups and other things in particular, are that CEOs today don't necessarily understand science. They don't understand science. I would argue conveniently they don't understand cybersecurity. They don't understand a lot of different things. And so the way that we solve that is we start taking people who have that expertise and have this expertise, and we start blending them together. In other words, the CEOs of the future are going to be the security researchers, the scientists. For what it's worth, I'm on board with this completely. I've been telling people consistently for the last 3 or 4 years that if you've got a security background today and you aspire to something other than just being a security leader, a CISO or otherwise, and if you tell me that's your end goal, that's awesome too. But if you said, well, I want to be a CIO one day or I want to be a CEO one day, I promise you, the amount of attention that security is getting, if you can develop all these other things that we're talking about in terms of your ability to lead and to communicate and to understand the business side of stuff, I think you've really poised yourself well for those positions. And that's essentially what this is saying. It's saying, look, if you want to be good at these things and you want to understand how to run a startup that does research or a startup that does security, you kind of got to understand those fields a little bit. Now, I'm going to offer a quick counter to this because we see this a lot of times in security where someone say, well, the only way you can be a CISO is if you understand security. Understand security is a really wide path. So what I would say is you can give me somebody who's a competent, capable leader with proven demonstrated skills and put them in charge of a top performing team, and they can learn what they need to know about security on the job. I have 100% confidence in that. Do I see it a lot? No. But I have confidence in it. And it's the same thing here. Can you take somebody who doesn't have any natural interest in being a leader, being a CEO, being executive? Because you and I ask a lot of the folks that are CEOs of the startups, what's it like now that you made the transition? And a few of them, even off air, have been pretty blunt. It is not what they expected. It's a grind. It took them out of a lot of the stuff that they loved. It was harder than they expected. But I still think we're going to see more of this. And I think it's good. I think this is a good trend. And that's why I put it in there. So if you're in security today and you're saying, oh, am I cut out to be a CEO? Yes. Am I cut out to be a CEO of my own company? Absolutely. Can I be the CEO of somebody else's? Yes. Can I be the CEO of GE? Probably not. But, maybe. I mean, prove me wrong. It's Immelt had a really tenuous career, and they got a new guy, and I keep forgetting his name. I got to look him up. But I'm impressed with what I'm seeing out of GE right now. By the way, just as an aside, because we've talked about him. If you remember, Paul, we did when he came on board, he said, all right, here's the 3 things, and the only 3 things. Well, he's spinning off a big portion of their business now. Like he basically said, look, this isn't our core focus. We're not really the best at it, and it's really kind of, and when I say spinning off, I mean like, 20, 30, $40 billion worth of spinoff. That's bold strategy. I really dig it. I like it. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, you've been on a lot of the different sides of this, and you've worked in academia. You've worked on the research side of stuff. You've been on the marketing side of stuff. I think that really qualifies you to be more effective as a CEO of the organizations that you're part of. Have you found that those experiences have contributed to you? And do you think that sets the stage for other people?
No, I do. But I also think that, it's a team effort, and I kind of like when you talked about that TV show, the coaching idea. We can take scientists and have them have a coach, or maybe there's a scientist that has a business partner that plays the CEO role. So I think defining roles early on, and also having a coach is really important to taking your idea to the next level.
All right. So on that coaching, perfect segue. This is kind of like the bonus, right? I always try to choose 5 articles. So this one, I loved it, and this is why I threw it in. So here's the headline. These top tech companies are hiring first, training later. This is something I think we need to adopt in security, and I think we need to adopt it sooner rather than later. Now, I am happy myself now to invite the controversy. I don't think we have a shortage. I cringe every time I see it, and it ranges anywhere from a couple 100,000 now to 2 million to 3 million to by 2020 the world is gonna die because we don't have enough security people or something. People always get irritated with me when I point that out because they say, well, they can't find somebody. And as I've pointed out consistently, every time this happens, just because you have a problem hiring, and I know someone, we're going to get the hate mail, you send it to me. Just because you have a problem hiring somebody doesn't mean that we have a broad systemic problem. Did you have a clear understanding of who you were hiring and did you have a value proposition for the role? Did that person present you with a value proposition? Do you understand the hiring process? Does everybody involved in it understand it properly? And typically, once I dig into these, anybody who's got a real challenge, I've dug into it, and it turns out, yeah, okay, we didn't have any of those. But do I then flip it around and say, is there a bigger need for this? Yes. I had the privilege this week of hosting Hack Naked News, and thankfully saw the intro ahead of time, Paul. So I had clothes on, so it was good. But one of the things we talked about is extending the Peace Corps mission to include cybersecurity in particular. I think that's intriguing. I'd like to learn more about it, but I think that's intriguing. So here's the point for this one: hire smart people, hire good people, train them into the position. Train them in. And there's a couple different ways to do it. I don't remember if it's in this article in particular or if it's somebody else's. I feel like Buffer has done a lot of stuff to be super transparent, and I'm really impressed with it. And I think so this is not in this article, I think, but Buffer basically said what we used to do is welcome people on board, and they have like a 6-month trial process. And if they don't complete the 6 months, like there's a buy off, like we'll give them money. So if they get to like, week 6 and they're like, screw this isn't for me. Okay, cool. Here's your check, and thank you and good luck. Zappos used to, or probably still does, some of the same things, like get through the training. And if you decide it's not for me, we'll pay you. Thank you for your time and head out the door.
Right.
What Buffer found, Paul, was that put too much pressure on the wrong things and the wrong people in the wrong way. And so what they do now is you're a full member of the team from day one. Your benefits are all vested, like everything's good to go, and then they onboard you for 90 days or whatever it is. So instead of saying it's a competition, we hope you're still here, it's we're here to make sure you kick ass.
Right.
That's what this is talking about. So if you think about it, one of the interesting things that I always found was people would say, well, the answer to the shortage, Michael, is we need universities and technical schools, right? What we used to call community colleges to step up and pick up the slack. By the way, we've largely seen that. Then you go to the hiring managers and you say, well, how's that working? And they go, well, they're book smart, but they didn't have any practical experience. So like, I love what you did with Prof HackCon and invite students out, invite the community out, right? So make it part industry meets community. Let's meet the students where they are. Let's get them excited. I'm going to add a dimension. Let's make sure their families understand what's going on. Let's bring everybody into it. And then, you've got this potential now to mentor and work with people for a period of 2 to 4, 5, 6 years. And then by the time it's ready to hire them, you know who they are. You know what they're capable of. Great. Well, it's kind of what they're saying here. Do you have a program, if you could go find somebody with the right aptitude, skill set, interest, attitude, that you could run them through a training program? And at the end of that training program, they had the skill set you needed, indoctrinated into your methods and systems of doing stuff, and could crush it. And all I'm going to say real quick, because I'm curious your thoughts on this, I think it's a great approach. And somebody always says, but what happens when they leave? Yes. What happens when they leave? First of all, there's the old adage, right? What if I train them and they leave? What if you don't and they stay? But there's the flip side to that. So you're worried about being known as the people who create superstars. That's never going to be a problem. That means you'll have people standing outside your door waiting to get in,
right,
and maybe they'll take it cheaper at the jump. And then what happens is you can figure out who your real superstars are. Trust me, you can find ways to retain them. And then a lot of people that are going to work with you for a year, thanks for the memories, punch out, go get good money. And if you train them well, you've built a legacy and you've transformed the industry. I think so. This whole, what if I, no, but with limited exception, point me to the companies that have really figured out onboarding, really figured out security training, really figured out the skill sets that somebody needs in order to solve these problems. They don't have it. If you don't have that stuff in place and you're not sure who you're hiring for and what role they're going to be in and how they're going to contribute value, right? That contribution margin of the role, not the person. What are you hiring for exactly?
I think what you're saying is, Michael, is it comes down to leadership and communication.
Yeah, I mean, I think
from the employer side, right? They have to be a leader in the community. They have
training.
to communicate well and train. Yeah, and be a part of the solution, not part of the problem.
I mean, you and I have looked at tools, right? So we talked today, like the tools that come in and they help you evaluate the tools that you have. These cyber ranges and portable cyber ranges and simulations. I mean, so what you're telling me now is I can take somebody who's rudimentally interested, and I can test them out in like a day or two and see if they got it or not. And if they're fired up, I can take them and train them in a period of 4 to 6 weeks. They're solid.
Funny story about
That's
that.
Awesome.
Sam was helping organizing the conference, and someone from the National Guard, some military unit had they were like, well, we want to bring the live fire range, and Sam was like, these are students. We can't have firearms there. What are they talking about? No, it was what you were talking about. It was the live fire cyber range.
The National Guard. I've been privileged to attend some of their Cyber Shield style exercises. Paul, you know what's great about it? The one I went to, and I'll make this real quick. They had your red teams, they had your blue teams, and then they had industry partners that were part of it. Industry partners had to get their legal teams involved. This was freaking awesome because this is the way it would work if we actually needed to engage our Guard partners, right? So the National Guard works a little different than other parts of the military. So this is important if you're in the commercial sector as well. FBI sent people to it. Local and federal state police sent people to it so that we had the actual fusion center, and they ran live fire exercises. So then the industry partners were allowed to come in and to participate. So if you got to talk to some of them afterwards, and they said, well, I never understood that's how it worked. Imagine setting something up like that on a consistent basis and rotating in different legal teams and rotating in different police units and rotating in different whatevers. Paul, there's no better way to learn. There's no better way to show your executives. There's no better way to show the return and point at stuff and ask questions. I came away from that thoroughly impressed, totally jazzed up, probably took 10, 15 pages of handwritten notes. Like on the car ride home, I was so excited. I had to stop, get out of the car, and just write the notes out of my head until I stopped or ran out of ink. So when you then say to me, could we go set up these apprentice programs in our organizations today and turn out higher quality security talent? Absolutely. And I hope it happens. I'm happy to support it, and I think we need more of it. Yeah, it's going to take some leadership and communication, and then of course you got to go find the right training and measure. I mean, there's more to it, but yeah, these are the things that get me fired up.
And the CCDC is a good program for students, very similar to that as well, which we've talked about before. Yep. All right, with that, we can take a short break. Come back, talk about startup security news. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.